putting the stereoizer on the master isn't good, because the bass and the kick and everything go off to the left or right or whatever. It just doesn't sound right. So you don't want to put too much of a stereoizer here, but there is another stereoizer that does sound pretty decent on the master, and it's called Sheppy. So if we do preset RTB Ambi Clarify, I don't know why it's called that, don't know what it's really designed for, but this is what it does. Pretty cool, right? Oh yeah. Here it sounds like a professional song now. This is mixing. So we're gonna move down, actually. Let me explain this. This is a chain. So everything that happens here goes into here and goes into there as like a waterfall, right? So I'm gonna put in an EQ, and we're gonna do that magic EQ I showed you before. You don't want it after Sheppy, because this will be EQing a spatialized thing and it will ruin the whole spatial image of it. So you always want to EQ beforehand. So I'm gonna do this magic thing again without even really listening to it, just doing it. Just to show you again that it's, oddly enough, it's the shape of this thing that is magic, you know? Don't even get it, but here and there. Okay. Doesn't even have to be severe, it could just be subtle. So yeah. Here's the difference again. This before, after. That EQ is everything. Oh yeah. So that's that. So you might be thinking, then what is mastering? Mastering is what we just did there, actually, and here. Mastering is putting more space into the recording. You're trying to EQ out things that don't sound right, and for some reason this EQ just makes everything sound good. No idea why. No one knows why, but it does, so use it. Anyway, we're going to move this down, and we're going to use a Fruity multiband compressor here. Actually, you know what? No, we're not. We're going to use one of the things I included, Density Mark III. Oh, I love this one. Now, it's kind of hard to explain what it does, because what it does is extremely subtle. We went over this in the compressor section, but this, it just glues things and pushes them together slightly. It's like a really gentle, active compression, you know? So it's always like changing what it does depending on what's happening in the song, right? Very advanced program for like a free program. It's really interesting. So, really, I just like to use gluing, because then it just kind of compresses things together a little bit and pushes them together. But we'll hear the difference here. Oops. No, we want to compress the bass. Let's hear the difference. Very subtle, but all it does is it just kind of pushes it together a bit more. I wonder what happens if this goes before the EQ. Let's see. That sounds better after. Oh, there we go. See what that does? Makes it bigger. Sounds good. It's actually quite well mastered. So this is mastering, when you put stuff into the master, right? You're mastering. So this is the difference between the mix track, and we mixed it pretty darn well, right? Everything is put together, all the EQs are in place to make them all work together and sounds don't conflict, but it sounds like this. Actually, even the limiter is mastering, right? That's what it sounds like. That's only mixing. That's just mixing. Sounds like this, right? I love it. It's quite good, right? But it can get better, obviously, because we're going to turn on all the mastering presets here, and hear that? Turn it off again. Oop. Kind of quiet, not glued together at all. Not really wide, and if you ever hear the audio kind of skipping or popping or something, it's just because there might be a lot of things going on, and sometimes FL Studio is trying to catch up with it because it has to do it all live, right? So that's the only reason. As you can see, we didn't use 2 at all. This is just clap. We don't want to put a clap in there. So we went from, actually, let me show you. This is probably going to be the most dramatic thing. We're going to turn off all the plugins on the entire thing, everything we did, no mixing, no mastering, nothing. Just gain staging, just putting things at the proper volumes. But even that isn't correct right now because compressors and gain and stuff like that changes the volume of things. But let's see. You see that's what we started with, right? It doesn't sound super bad, right? It just doesn't sound refined. It doesn't sound professional. That's what people usually do when they don't mix or master things, right? Let's say you see like some sort of video series on YouTube and the person fancies themselves a musician, right? So they throw everything into FL Studio and make this. Probably not something as good as this, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. But as you can see, it's not mixed at all, and they probably don't even gain stage it at all. You know, they don't change the volumes, it's all just flat. So that's what makes something sound unprofessional, right? Like this. Now we go through and turn on all this stuff that we just did in this video. Bam. Before you know it, bada boom, bada bing, we turn that unprofessional sounding thing into this. If you ask me, it sounds pretty good, doesn't it? It'll sound good on pretty much anything, out of a mono speaker, stereo speakers, headphones, whatever. It's gonna sound good. Nice and wide and realistic. Mastered. It's mixed, everything. And actually, things still sound, with all this, things still sound good without the fruity limiter, as long as you gain stage everything correctly and nothing's going over the limit, right?